James West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Hey, what do you say, folks? Here we go on a Wednesday, middle of the week, Wednesday, November 11. So good to see you today. Thanks for joining in. I know you're all hungover because you were up late last night watching the big GOP debate, Republican debate number 4. It was certainly the most, let's say, level, even-keeled debate so far, maybe to the point of being boring, no gotcha questions. A couple of tussles between candidates, but the candidates were not asked to attack each other the way they had been in other debates. Interesting to see how they fared under this new format. I got to say, Chris Christie, hands down, won the JV debate. He really looked like he belonged on the big stage, which he has been for the first 3 debates. Of course, give that man a podium, give him a microphone, and he knows how to use it. On the big stage, Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio seemed the most facile, made the best use of their time, I think, gave the strongest performances, and certainly seemed to know their facts. Got to say, George Bush had the best night that he's had so far, which doesn't mean he won the debate, but he looked good, he held his own, he spoke well. And so did Rand Paul, by the way. Rand Paul, I thought, for the first time was a real player. He showed that he does have a lot of differences from other people on the stage, particularly strong, I thought, on taking on Marco Rubio. Ben Carson, totally clueless when it came to policies, when it came to really explaining what his tax code was all about or what Syria was all about. He did not have a clue. Embarrassing. And Donald Trump, didn't say anything. What happened to the fire in Donald Trump? And the most obnoxious of all, of course, was Carly Fiorina. Get rid of her. I can't stand listening to her. We're going to talk debate all through the day. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
I can't believe I stayed up for the whole thing. Why? Well, I know why. So we could talk about it today. That's why. Just for you, I stayed up and watched that whole dumb debate last night. Hello, everybody. Wednesday, November 11. Here we are. The Bill Press Show, the morning after. Great to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us. And we do have lots to talk about. We saw them at their best and at their worst last night, mainly at their worst. Gee, did you know that Obamacare has not helped one single person?
Not one, huh?
Not one.
Man.
You know, maybe some 18 million people have health care today who never had it before, but not one single one of those people is any better off. Not one. You ask, every single one of them would tell you, hasn't done me any good. No, why should I have health care? Yeah, right, for me and my family. Unfreaking believable. All right. See, you got to weigh in here. Your opinion's worth any one of ours, so give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, whether you're listening on the radio, and we salute you. All those loyal fans in Radio Land for our local progressive talk radio stations, thank you for being with us so many years in a row, so many days in a row. And we thank you watching on Free Speech TV or worldwide, checking in on the politics of the day in the USA at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. How about it? Peter Ogburn.
Here we are.
Somehow.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's funny.
Was it worth it?
We used to
Jamie
get so...
Benson?
We were waiting for the debates, right? We were like, okay, we can't really talk about the stuff until we get to... We're having the debates. We're having the debates. The first two, I think there was some excitement here among the staff, you know?
Right.
And, yeah, I'd say that's gone, right, Jamie?
I think we've...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We've already OD'd on the debates, and how many more do we have? I think 8 more Republican debates, right? Didn't they have a dozen?
Yeah, it was 12, right, total?
Yeah, I think so, right.
6 for the Democrats.
Guys. All right. How about it? Ray Rogers here. Take your call, she will, and get you on the air at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding on the job as our videographer today as well. And you know what you need is as a new president, we need somebody who's got some real foreign policy experience, and hopefully, you know, that's why I was hoping Joe Biden would run, who's got some firsthand experience dealing with these world leaders so they know each other and they can get started. There won't be a real learning curve. You know, we need somebody like Donald Trump, who obviously, because Russia is going to be a big challenge for the new president, we need somebody who has a really good understanding of Russia, the history of Russia, what Putin is all about, and who has a working relationship already with Vladimir Putin, like Donald Trump. And where did the two of them get to know each other so well? In the green room.
Putin wants to go in, and I got to know him very well because we were both on 60 Minutes. We were stablemates, and we did very well that night. But you know that. But if Putin wants to go and knock the hell out of ISIS, I am all for it, 100%, and I can't understand how anybody would be against it. They blew up, hold it, they blew up, wait a minute, they blew up a Russian airplane. He cannot be in love with these people.
It's the only one I know who would say that it's good that Russia is in there bombing targets in Syria and almost running into our planes, and we don't know what the hell they're doing, right?
What is he?
And they started out bombing our allies.
What is he talking about?
Who are supposedly fighting Assad. I mean, they're in there protecting Assad. We're in there trying to topple Assad, and Trump thinks it's a good idea. He wasn't the only one on stage last night who had no idea. When it came to foreign policy, clueless.
Oh, yeah, man.
Clueless in America. But the idea that because they spent 10 minutes together in the green room at CBS, that they're best buds now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, I had dinner once at the Palm when Vladimir Putin was in the same restaurant. All I'm saying is...
President Press.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah. We'll get into it. Whether you watched or not, we had to get your take on the bunch of clowns last night. 866-55-PRESS again. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. We'll pick it up right there at the debate, Bill, because, they have filing rooms and rooms for the press to hang out in when they're watching the debate on site there in Milwaukee. So they have a Wi-Fi system set up, and you have to have the credentials to log on to the Wi-Fi. You have to have the name of the network, and you have to have the password. So when journalists showed up yesterday, some people, CNN's Betsy Klein was the first person to notice this, that you sit down, and the name of the network that you're supposed to join is RNC Debate, and the password was Stop Hillary.
Oh.
That was the password to get on the Wi-Fi last night at the Republican debate.
Had to use?
All of the journalists had to use. All of them had to type it in if you wanted to use the wireless that was there provided by the RNC.
It's a password.
That's a little tacky.
Little tacky. TMZ got their hands on a photo that I'm sure country music star Jason Aldean would rather they not have. Aldean, one of the biggest names in country western music these days. But for Halloween, he decided to dress up like Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne is a black man.
Yeah.
Aldean is a white man. You see where I'm going here.
No,
he put on
really?
blackface for
no.
Halloween and the dreadlocks that Lil Wayne has for his hair. The photo leaked out from his wife's Facebook page. And he will not apologize for it. He says
what's that about?
Wanted to dress up like one of his favorite artists, Lil Wayne. Just so happens that he had to put on blackface to do it, and so he...
You have to apologize.
Of course you have to. You can't... Folks, there's no reason to put blackface on. Not even for a Halloween costume. Don't do it.
This is 2015.
Yeah, come on. This is stupid.
No.
And congratulations to Barack Obama for coming out.
Congratulations. Oh, really?
Well, not exactly. He yesterday became the first president to sit and pose for a magazine cover for a gay and lesbian magazine, Out Magazine. It's one of the biggest ones in circulation. He posed because they named him, Out Magazine named him Ally of the Year.
I knew he was gay.
Yeah, right? So Ally of the Year means, of course, a straight ally, someone who is sympathetic to the causes of the LGBT movement. They say that he is the highest profile. He's done more for gay people than any other straight person this year. So he is their Ally of the Year, and he actually sat down and posed for the photo.
He is certainly the most gay-friendly president we have ever had.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Took him a while to get there on Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Took him a while to get there on... he was always against Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Just took him a while to get rid of it. But took him a while to come around on marriage equality, but he got there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There you go.
All right. Good for you, Barack. Yes, indeed. Last night it was Fox Business Channel. They had their chance with Maria Bartiromo and
Neil Cavuto.
Neil Cavuto.
Yeah.
And then they had Gerard Baker from the Wall Street Journal sort of tagging along because it was co-sponsored by both. And I got to tell you, it was a different debate than we've seen before. The questions were very substantive, I'd have to say. There were no gotcha questions for the most part. In fact, I don't think there was one question, maybe one, where candidates were invited to comment on something somebody else said. They weren't really invited to attack like they had been in other debates. if you caught that. And they really got into the economic issues and particularly tax issues to the point, I've got to say, where a lot of the debate was flat out boring.
It was a boring debate.
There's nothing worse than getting 8 people on stage and saying, now please explain the details of your tax reform plan. Okay. One of the embarrassing things about that is some of them clearly don't know what the hell they're talking about, particularly Ben Carson. Not a clue.
I let out a groan right at the beginning of the debate.
You get a little...
When Neil Cavuto said...
on your throat. Yeah.
I got a little thing in my throat. When Neil Cavuto was like, well, we're going to focus on the issues, it was kind of a shot at CNBC. Because of the, trying to get them to fight back and forth.
They did, I must say, they did a better job than CNBC, although a lot of people were tweeting, I miss the, bring back the moderators.
I did kind of miss them CNBC moderators. I did kind of miss the CNBC moderators. But like when they announced that we're going to focus on the details of the plan, I said, "Oh my God, this is going to be something else."
Yeah, don't get too deep into the weeds on that,
especially with these guys.
Right. But overall, just a few, and listen, here we go. Open season here on the debate last night, whether you saw a little bit of it or a lot of it or the whole damn thing, whether you saw the JV debate or the grown-up debate or both of them or one or the other, I want to hear from you. 866-55-PRESS. What did you think? Who had a good night? Who had a bad night? Who won? Who lost? I don't think there was any clear winner last night, unlike the last time where the clear loser was Jeb Bush. But... A few comments. I thought that the two who did best on stage were Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. Rubio, again, I don't think he says a lot. He doesn't say a lot. He really does speak in platitudes. But he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He looks good. He's attractive. He's young. He's forceful. He's strong. And so is Ted Cruz. I hate to say it, but... I'd have to say today, I think one of the two of them is going to be the nominee.
Oh, my God. That's terrifying.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. But, I mean, Cruz is a master debater. He just fluffed up on one point when he said he was going to eliminate 5 agencies and could only name 4 of them. Shades of Rick Perry. But overall, he held his more than held his own. I thought the two of them. I thought that Jeb Bush had the best night he's had so far, which is a pretty low bar.
I was going to say,
right.
That's not saying a whole lot.
But he was on his game last night, and he scored a couple of points, particularly on immigration. We'll hear a clip on that in just a little bit. I thought Rand Paul had the best night that he's had so far. He was a player last night. He has not been a player in the earlier debates. He interjected himself. He made some strong points, and he really showed that he has a different approach than the other candidates on stage. He is the real conservative and the real libertarian among that group. And he went after Marco Rubio on that point. In terms of John Kasich had a good night, I thought. Not a great night, but he had a good night. In terms of the front runners, I got to tell you, Donald Trump...
that was the worst night he's had in the debate.
Worst night so far, yeah. He just stood there. He has that glum look on his face anyhow. Even when he was given a question on immigration, he didn't show the force and the fire that he's shown before on immigration at all.
I think this was interesting tell for Trump in his campaign because Trump has been, charming isn't the right word, right? But there is a certain quality to him that's fun to watch, right?
Yeah.
And that's because he's like picking on the other candidates or being bombastic or whatever. But he was out of his depth last night. And when you have to get into the weeds and explain your plan, and he couldn't do it.
No.
He got booed a couple of times.
He got booed a couple of times. And like, for example, the TPP, all he could say about the TPP, it's a bad deal. It's the worst deal I've ever seen. It's the worst deal. You got to have people who can make a deal. Well, be specific, Donald. What is it exactly? It's 5,000 pages. It's been released now. What is specifically in it don't you like? He mentioned currency manipulation, which is not in it. And he kept talking about China. And finally, Rand Paul said, could I point out that China is not even part of this deal?
China has nothing to do with it.
Right. So he clearly was clueless on that. And Ben Carson, I thought, had certainly the worst night so far and just showed again that he is totally clueless about everything. He could not explain his tax plan. He doubled down on his scholarship to West Point, which is that's the way everybody puts it, which is not true. And then when it came to Syria, I mean, he just talks and talks, and then he finally says, well, it's a complex issue. Duh.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe you should, run for president. It's so complex. Explain it to us.
Pretty embarrassing, his lack of understanding of foreign policy issues. So that's kind of across the field. Your questions, your comments. A quick break, and then we'll bring you some of the sound and the action from the debate night last night on Fox Business Channel. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Maybe not as loud as Donald Trump, but he's a hell of a lot smarter. This is your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election, The Bill Press Show.
I'm not only smarter than Donald Trump, I'm also smarter than Ben Carson. Not that I can do brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he can't do talk radio either, so there. Talking about last night's debate, your impressions, Peter,
We are on Twitter, by the way. Don't forget, we're at BP Show, at BP Show. Just a quick comment from Barbara, who weighs in and says, "Are you nuts?
Me?
You called Cruz a master debater? He doesn't debate. He just preaches insane, fake Christian crap."
Well, that's true. That is true, but he performs well, and let's face it, that's what it is. It's a Broadway show, right? It's entertainment. I'm not saying look, Chris Christie, you give him a podium and a microphone, he knocks it. He nails it.
Yeah.
You give Ted Cruz a podium and a microphone, I'm sorry, not agreeing with anything either one of them says, Ted Cruz nails it. Marco Rubio nails it. The rest of them, really not so much. All right, shall we say this, though, before we take this call here? Carly Fiorina, the worst, the most obnoxious, the most... I can't listen to her. I mean, seriously. She doesn't say anything. And this crazy idea that she thinks is such a great idea, that she can get the entire tax code down to 3 pages. First of all, no, she can't. No, she can't. And besides, what's magic about 3 pages? I want the tax. I don't care how many pages it is. I want the wealthy to pay. I want everybody to pay their fair share of taxes, as long as they make enough money that they should be paying taxes. I don't care how many pages it is. What's magic about 3 pages? Why should we elect her? Because she comes up with this caca idea that the tax code should be 3 pages, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where'd that come from? Ted is out in Las Vegas. Hello, Ted.
Yeah, hi. Well, she was asked about how the Democrats have better job creation than the Republicans, and it was a really good question.
Yes.
She didn't even answer it, and the trouble, the reporters, or whatever you call them, the Three Stooges there, they didn't follow up and make sure that the people answered the question. So, I mean, maybe it's unfair to call them the Three Stooges. Maybe call them the neutered lapdogs for the Republican Party.
Well, it was Fox Business Channel. No, you're right. That was a good question. Gerard Baker asked that question. He pointed out that under Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, they created massive number of jobs, many, many, many more, only 13,000 a month under George W. Bush. She didn't answer it at all, Ted. You know why? She could not answer it, because it's true.
And there was a theme in the debate last night they kept throwing around about how bad the economy was. And it's like, guys, why are you saying that? They know it's not true.
They know it's not true. The very, very first question, thank you, Pierre, for reminding me. Because yesterday morning we talked about the fact 271,000 jobs in October, right? We're now at full employment. And the first question last night was how terrible the job market is, how terrible the economy is. And everybody, of course, agreed with that because it was not Obama night.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, that guy Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is, that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I can just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earthalluia.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Wednesday, November 11, on the ground in Milwaukee, David Jackson from USA Today, who has promised to, he delivers too. We can count on him.
Oh, yeah, man.
Unlike some other friends of ours that we have on the road that promise to call in and...
David goes on the road and actually shows up. I admire that in David.
David Jackson, USA Today,
I don't know
the
what
next
kind of,
segment, live.
I don't know what kind of shape he's going to be in, but he'll be here.
He'll be all right.
You think so?
I count on him. Yeah, I count on David. Yes, because Susan Page, she'll be listening in. Yeah, indeed. We're catching up on last night's debate here from Washington D.C. in our studio on Capitol Hill. And hey, those of you watching on Free Speech TV, I know what you're thinking. Boy, Bill looks pretty snazzy today. Really sharp today. You're wondering why? Here's why. Look at this. What I'm wearing. It's the season, folks, for to wear a beautiful hand-woven scarf. Can't do better than a hand-woven scarf by my wife, Carol Press. And if you want to see, this is a beautiful black and red. I love these colors. Congressman Sam Farr wears one of these on the floor of the House, actually. Nice. If you want to check out her selection this year for either rayon chenille or bamboo scarves, they are one of a kind. Each one is a work of art. Go to our website, BillPressShow.com, and right on the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the link to Carol Press Scarves. Follow that link. You can check out all the different styles and get yourself or someone you love one of these beautiful scarves for the holiday. And please make Carol happy and buy lots of them. Last night's debate, yes, indeed. Let's catch up with some of the sound. There were some highlights, as I mentioned, before we get back to your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Who do you think? Did anybody really knock themselves out of contention last night? Did anybody do so well that they are going to soar? Did anybody really score last night? I don't think so. But certainly in the kiddie debate, Chris Christie was the only grown-up on stage. Again, not agreeing with everything he said, but he did get off a shot about reforming the tax code, where they all started, to the point where he could even fire a lot of IRS agents.
Everyone will get lower rates, keep more of their own money, be able to file their tax returns in 15 minutes. And by the way, the good thing, I'll be able to fire a whole bunch of IRS agents once we do that.
That was a
it's
theme.
always an applause line, and they all used it.
That was a theme, though, especially in the JV debate. They kept talking about all the people they were going to fire.
Yeah.
And all the departments they were going to get rid of. And the people just, yay!
Yeah.
Right? And on one hand, they're talking about how terrible the economy is. And on the other hand, they're talking about how many jobs they're going to just send packing. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Similarly, when the big kids debate started, the very first question I thought was a good question about that yesterday was the day that the fast food workers made a big point again. And by the way, Bernie Sanders was out there with them every step of the way. $15 and the right to form a union. Well, they weren't asked last night about the right to form a union, but they did start out by asking each one, would you raise the minimum wage? I thought it was all you need to know about the difference between that Republican field and the Democratic field and why it's so important to have a Democrat elected as the next president of the United States. There was not one candidate on stage who would agree to raise the minimum wage.
Yeah.
These are guys, all of them, who are making about $200,000 a year, and they would not raise the minimum wage for people who are making at the most $7.25 an hour, which is where it is and has been since George W. Bush was president. And it started with, of course, the richest man on stage, the $10 billion baby. Would you raise the minimum wage so that people, don't have to live, so many people don't have to live in poverty? What would Donald Trump say? Hell no.
I hate to say it, but we have to leave it the way it is. People have to go out, they have to work really hard, and they have to get into that upper stratum.
The logic of that is just insane. What? We're not going to raise, no. You're going to get stuck at $7 an hour, but you just have to work more hours and work harder, and then you'll get up into the upper stratum. That doesn't make any sense
it doesn't make any sense at all.
These people could work 24 hours, 7 days a week at the rate some of them are getting paid and still be living in poverty with a family of 2 or 3, right? And then Marco Rubio, you would think, again, a young guy with old ideas. That's what I call him. Marco Rubio, who repeated the old saw that if you raise minimum wage, then people are going to lose their jobs. Ben Carson said the same thing. Everybody on stage, not everybody had a chance to answer that question, but nobody on stage said they would raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. John Kasich is the only one who came close who said they did raise the minimum wage in Ohio. A little bit. I don't even know what they raised it to. But at least he acknowledged that the minimum wage may be a legitimate issue. Otherwise, pretty embarrassing. Ben Carson, again, clueless. And so they asked, we thought there might be a question about all the lies that he has told. The only question, the way the question came was, so have all these charges and these questions hurt your campaign? And he said, no, they haven't hurt my campaign. And by the way, we ought to go after Hillary.
When I look at somebody like Hillary Clinton, who sits there and tells her daughter and a government official that, no, this was a terrorist attack, and then tells everybody else that it was a video. Where I came from, they call that a lie. And I think that's very different from, somebody misinterpreting when I said that I was offered a scholarship to West Point.
Well, maybe I'm old-fashioned too, but where I come from, when somebody says, I was offered a full scholarship to Georgetown University, and I was not, I call that a lie. What's the difference? I call that a lie. Yeah.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
At the end of that whole thing, Carson says, everyone who knows me
knows that I'm an honest man.
That I'm an honest man.
And nobody challenged him. Yeah, right.
And that was it.
Yeah,
that was it. That was the end.
Yeah.
That was the end of his answer.
Yeah.
And they let him just say that.
Right.
It's crazy.
And on immigration, Donald Trump, once again, this is... I just wonder what the point of it is. But again, he insists he's going to deport 11 million people. And then in the same sentence he says, but then they'll come back. You notice that every time he says it, he's going to deport them, but then they'll come back. So why deport them if they're all coming back? I want somebody to answer that question, ask him that question. What he's saying, I think, means is he'll deport them because they came here illegally. Then they'll all come back legally. But again, but it's just, finally, John Kasich just said, come on, guys, let's get serious.
Come on, folks. We all know you can't pick them up and ship them back across the border. It's a silly argument. It's not an adult argument. It makes no sense.
All I can say is you're lucky in Ohio that you struck oil. That's for one thing.
Yeah. What does that mean? Okay, yeah, because the Ohio economy is doing okay because they have fracking. I mean, that's what Donald Trump is trying to say. That's a cheap shot. It meant not on point at all, right? And by the way, that was also the issue on which Jeb Bush, I thought Bush was smart here. He let Trump and Kasich sort of fight it out, right, down and dirty. And then Bush took the high line, or the high road on immigration and said, this is just not, it's not practical and it's not who we are.
And it's not embracing American values. And it would tear communities apart. And it would send a signal that we're not the kind of country that I know America is.
I thought he made a good point there. He said, you know, in the Hillary Clinton campaign tonight, they are high-fiving, listening to us talk about throwing 11 million. There's shades of Pat Buchanan, when there were only maybe 6 million, but now it's 11 million. One of the best exchanges of the night came when Marco Rubio was bragging about his tax plan. He's got, in addition to his tax plan, he's got a child income tax credit, which would cost $1 trillion. And also in his plan, he would give another $1 trillion to the military. And Rand Paul did raise a point about why is this a conservative idea?
I do want to rebuild the American military. I know that Rand is a committed isolationist. I'm not. I believe the world is a stronger and a better place when the United States is the strongest military power in the world.
Marco, how is it conservative? How is it conservative to add $1 trillion expenditure for the federal government that you're not paying for?
It's not. Yeah, it's not. I mean, you just have to admit it. Again,
Rand Paul doesn't get a lot of
better debater, but I think Rand Paul makes more sense.
Rand Paul's not getting a lot of time in these debates, but when he does, he makes it count. He really does make it count. That was a good exchange.
Yeah, right. So, again, David Jackson was there in the hall, joins us live from Milwaukee when we come back here on The Bill Press Show.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Your toilet. So how do you do? I take away your wee and the odd number 2. For a quiet moment, I'll always be there, bringing you troubles. You don't even have to care. Oh, think about the things you put me through. Things you put me through that I've been through you. Stuff from your body I'll happily take. Liquid or solid, whatever you make. When you think of all the things that I do, it's time to say thanks to your Lou. If I wasn't there anymore, you can only imagine disaster. I So next time you have to do a poo or a wee, thank the sanitary saints that you have me. When you think of all the things that I do, it's time to say thanks to your loo. La 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 la. It's time to say thank you to your loo.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 13 minutes before the hour. Yep. We stayed up, watched the whole damn thing last night. No gotcha questions on stage, right? I understand all the gotcha questions came afterward in the spin room from some pesky reporter for USA Today by the name of David Jackson.
There he is.
Who was lying in wait. Yep. But he is in Milwaukee, and he was there in the hall and joins us on our news line this morning. Early morning to you, Mr. Jackson. Hi, David. Whoa.
You there, David?
Whoa. No.
We got him? All right. Well,
all right. Okay, we got to get him back.
On the
all
line.
right. Man, with all that buildup. I was wondering why he didn't growl at me or something.
Yeah, right. Right off the bat.
But David Jackson has gone on the road for just about every debate. And how are we doing, Jamie? No? Hello, David Jackson.
Bill, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we got you. I'm sorry.
There we go.
God, we gave you the big build-up, too, and then there's just radio silence.
It was kind of like the whole debate last night.
Yeah. No, exactly. So, overall, what'd you think?
I think the moderators went out of their way to avoid the situation we had in Boulder. So it was kind of it wasn't the most exciting evening we've ever had.
Yeah, no, I for sure they, the no gotcha questions, almost David, sometimes to the point of being boring, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't really. Yeah, I think there's a little overcompensation going on. Although John Kasich did his best to try to excite things.
He did. He shook it up a little bit. I got to tell you, I thought a couple of surprises. I thought Rand Paul had his best night so far, and so did Jeb Bush. Do you agree?
Yeah, very much, especially on Rand Paul. He was very sharp, and he basically staked out the libertarian ground. He's had a little trouble getting traction in these debates, but I think he did last night. I think Jeb had a good night too, if only for the fact that he didn't get any major fights with anybody. He didn't create any major gaps. He sort of stabilized his campaign last night, I think.
Yeah, on the immigration thing particularly, he was strong.
Right.
I thought, and again on Rand Paul, he got more time last night, and I thought he used it well, and he showed where he does differ with the other candidates on stage, whether that's a winning strategy or not. He got his points across last night.
Definitely so. Of course, he was the last one to qualify for this debate. Christie and Chris Christie and Mike Huckabee both got relegated to the preliminary debate, and Paul barely hung on to this part of the stage, but I do think he probably preserved himself for future debates. I mean, the question about Paul is whether he's got the organization that his father did in some of these states. That's the question you hear every time you go out to one of these things.
Since you touched on that, let's just take a little tangent there for a second. No doubt from my watching that Chris Christie walked away with the JV debate, right? He was a...
Oh, yeah, yes. I mean, the Christie's camp hope is that he did well enough to where he can bounce, he can get back onto the main stage next time and proclaim himself a big comeback. And there were a lot of New Hampshire people were in town last night for this debate, and even among his opponents, a lot of people still feel like Christie has a fighting chance in New Hampshire, regardless of what happened to him in this debate.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Now, let's talk about the two ostensible frontrunners, Ben Carson and Donald Trump. Where were they last night? Did they
Not
even
a great
show
night
up?
for either one. I didn't think either one of them had a particularly great night.
No.
I think Trump struggled with some foreign policy questions that appeared tired. I mean, it started at 9 o'clock Eastern time last night here. Again, I think there was some fatigue issues with Trump, who is 69 years old after all. And I think Carson also had the same kind of trouble. It just seemed obvious that Carson's a guy who's never held public office and is just now learning these issues, including the economic ones that came up last night. And I don't think he particularly distinguished himself, although he was able to address some of these criticisms of his biography that have floated around, and the crowd seemed to appreciate that.
Yeah, by turning it against Hillary. That was also interesting.
In the media.
In the media, right. Is that every reference was to Hillary Clinton. I didn't hear Bernie Sanders mentioned one time last night, I think.
One of the moderators mentioned him. I think accidentally he was talking about Wall Street perfidy. I think he meant to say Bernie Madoff, and it came out Bernie Sanders. But other than that, I think one of the candidates made a reference, but you're right, it was all about Hillary, and that was certainly Chris Christie's theme during the preliminary debate.
Absolutely.
Let's avoid attacking each other. Let's focus on Hillary. And a lot of the candidates there in the main debate picked it up as well.
On the minimum wage, very first question, right? John Kasich gave showed a little flexibility there, right? They've done it,
right?
But nobody embraced the $15. So.
No. In fact, Trump and Carson specifically spoke out against it, said it'd be bad, it would create jobs. You're right about Kasich. You mentioned they've had a modest minimum wage increase in Ohio, but didn't say whether he would do it on the federal level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kasich's goal, just as it was in the last debate, was try to get traction by attacking some of the other candidates. The minimum wage was the first question. Trump and Carson both fielded it, and then Kasich immediately jumped in and tried to draw the contrast with the other candidates. He was by far the most aggressive candidate last night. I don't know how effective it is for him.
And I guess I don't want to be accused of being sexist, so I at least have to mention Carly Fiorina. You know, she was okay, but I mean, I think she had a great night for sure, right?
She kept reading the same speech, and it's all got to take government back. She really played up the anti-establishment theme, the fact that she's not a politician.
Over and over.
She had a mantra that, over and over. Although, Bill, I think a lot of people were impressed with her. She certainly had the command of facts, and certainly seemed to understand the economy better than the other two outside candidates. But here again, I think people have kind of taken a look at her, and her numbers aren't going in the right direction.
And only Donald Trump could say that it's a good idea for Vladimir Putin to be in Syria, right?
And also talk about how he once met him in a green room during television. That's how we got to know him. So it was. That was one of the more interesting parts of the debate too, and was certainly a standout. Trump has less of a problem with Putin in Syria than just about anybody else.
Oh, man. And we got a Democratic debate on Saturday night, and then we have one more Republican debate, don't we, before
this calendar, the Republicans get together again December 15th in Las Vegas.
Oh, man.
And then that's the last of the real once this debate. Then we have debates before Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina.
All right, you got it. All right, David, great to connect with you. Thank you so much, man. All right.
Thanks, sir.
Talk to you soon. David Jackson, USA Today on the road in Milwaukee.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
We came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
Should I put the
water in there now?
Yeah, go ahead. So this is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Pull them out. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Just get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy.
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94. There was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean,
like
a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Okay. And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else. That we might be faced with, and that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, you got it. In the next hour, Jonathan Swan from The Hill joins us to talk politics of the day, and we will continue to review last night's debate with all of you, to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Line up now for how do you think they fared last night overall? What message did the Republicans send the country? And who were the big winners? Who were the losers? Who held their own? Who had a good night? Who had a bad night? All those questions that we kind of look into after each and every debate. And how long can Donald Trump and Ben Carson hang on? Carson certainly didn't help himself last night. I don't think Donald Trump did much either. Again, more calls coming up at 866-55-PRESS. So let's keep at it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas, too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump in
jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or wherever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
I never thought I'd hear myself say this, but I miss Lindsey Graham.
Aww.
I missed him last night.
Aww.
Yeah, funny man. He wasn't there. Hello, everybody. What do you say? I would have taken him over half the bozos on stage.
Yeah, for sure.
At least for entertainment purposes, if nothing else. It is a Wednesday. Hello, hello, hello. Great to see you this Wednesday, November 11. It is the Bill Press Show, and we are here with you all across this great land of ours. Everywhere in the United States of America, we're there with you on the radio. If you're lucky enough to have a progressive talk radio station, we're your morning show. If not, you can catch us, and you probably are listening on one of the great radio apps, TuneIn or iHeartRadio. Either way, you can catch us and follow us on the radio anywhere in the United States. You can also, of course, follow us on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Free Speech TV on the Dish Network and DirecTV. TawkrTV is at youtube.com/TawkrTV. And don't forget, give us a call. We want to hear from you about last night's debate particularly. Come on, you stayed up to watch it. Or you've seen some clips, or you've heard some clips about it. You've got some thoughts about who had a good night, who had a bad night, whether any of them had anything worth saying at all. Give us a holler at 866-55-PRESS. Let us know your comments on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show with Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Here we are.
Good morning.
Ray Rogers on the phones and Cyprian Bolding on the videographer. Here we go, indeed. I was very disappointed. The first question, I was waiting for the baby Hitler question.
Never came, damn it.
I was sure there'd be a baby Hitler question. Raise your hand if you would, but you didn't. But so Stephen Colbert has been following this baby Hitler thing, and he disagrees with Jeb Bush's approach. He suggests a better approach.
I, too, would travel back to the time of baby Hitler. But this is where me and Jeb's time streams start to diverge. Because I wouldn't kill young Adolf. I would take him from his parents and raise him with love. I would let him join anything where they have to wear a uniform. No Cub Scouts, no Little League, definitely no marching band. Right. Most importantly, I would teach baby Hitler that we do not solve our problems with violence. And then, if he starts getting mouthy as a teenager, I stick a knife in his ribs and snap off the handle. Okay?
He calls Ben Carson in at the end to do the job, if he does it, right? Yeah, indeed. Okay. All right, enough of baby Hitler. We've got Jonathan Swan coming in at the half hour from The Hill in the next hour. Jimmy Williams from Blue Nation Review here as a friend of Bill, joined by Betsy Woodruff from the Daily Beast. Good lineup, and you on the debates. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. To Houston, Texas we go, where, or just outside of Houston, I should say. And some folks showed up to work at the shopping center that they work at. They were getting ready to open up the store, get everything going. And there was an 800-pound alligator that had found its way into the store just outside of Houston, Texas. They've called this thing Godzilla. They freaked out, of course, when they showed up and got the store open. They called the police. Police showed up. They got a alligator trapper to come and get this guy, and they've taken him off to a conservation little area for the alligator to live in. They didn't kill it or anything like that. He didn't attack anybody. He just sort of wandered into this area where humans live, which is not a good thing.
You gotta watch the video of the woman wrangling him, though.
Dude.
It takes a very long time, but she's very good at it.
Oh, I saw that woman wrangling
Yeah.
him. Oh, I didn't realize
Yeah.
that's where it was.
Terrifying.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I wonder what the alligator was shopping for.
That's a good point. Maybe some boots, right?
Or
alligator skin boots?
Yeah.
Dictionary.com announced they are adding 150 new words and revising over 1,000 entries. So a couple of new words you might see at dictionary.com. Feels, right? Like when you talk about I've got the feels, right? Like I'm feeling emotional about something. Right? I call it the feels. Fleek is on there. Yeah, that scarf is on fleek, Bill.
I don't know what fleek means.
It looks very good.
Don't ever learn what fleek means.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jamie, you're going to help me out here as the resident millennial on the program.
Yeah.
Face palm. Face palm is now a word, right? Like,
yeah.
You screwed something up.
I'm okay with that one.
That was good. That's a good word. That's not totally millennial. And yes. YAAAS. Yes.
Oh.
This is silly.
I don't know.
This is silly.
What does that mean, Jamie?
That's a misapproprited cultural term.
What?
That's a misappropriated cultural term.
Explain yourself.
It started in the African American community, and it's been taken up by not African Americans.
By basics?
By basics.
Basic millennials?
You know what a basic is, Bill? We won't go there.
That's also on dictionary.com, by the way. That's one of the new words. And congratulations to former Saturday Night Live cast members Bill Hader and Fred Armisen. They're going to receive the American Ingenuity Award from the Smithsonian Magazine. It's going to be an event that's taking place here in Washington, D.C. on Thursday, tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And they are going to have a very special guest who's going to give them this award. It's going to be given to them by Senator Al Franken, who was one of the original writers for Saturday Night Live, of course. So when they come to town, he's going to award them the American Ingenuity Award. So congratulations to Bill Hader and Fred Armisen.
Yeah, good for them.
Very cool.
And good for Al.
Yeah.
And good for us for staying awake last night, for suffering through the fourth Republican debate, which turned out to be kind of a snooze fest for a good part of the program. But what do you expect when you get 8 Republicans on stage and say, would you please explain to Americans what your tax plan is all about? And we'll give you 90 seconds, but you can take as long as you want because we will never interrupt you and we will never demand that you observe the rules of the debate. At points, the debates really got out of control. I must say this. I do think, as boring as it was, that the Fox Business Channel moderators did a better job than the CNBC people because they were not trying to make themselves a show. They did ask, for the most part, substantive questions, but they also asked a lot of softballs. They also really were bending over backwards to make sure that at the end of the evening, the Republican National Committee would say, bravo, we love Fox Business Channel, which is exactly what happened at the end of the debate. The RNC put on and said, now this is our kind of debate, right?
They did it, they had the same problem that CNBC did, in that they had the JV debate, and then they had about 45 minutes to an hour to kill between that debate and the big debate, and they had Lou Dobbs anchoring that, and it was a disaster. And it's like they didn't know what they were going to do.
You know what? I turned it off after the JV debate, and I never turned in until I missed that.
You missed the whole time.
I missed that entire interim debate.
Sir, you are lucky. But they spent most of that time. They didn't have any plan of what they were going to do. They spent most of that time saying, what a great job the moderators did. Oh, they just, in the JV debate, it's just this is what we wanted, substantive. Get off it.
Yeah, overall, I got to tell you, the one thing that so many things struck me. One is how unprepared these people were, how uninformed they were on the issues. Particularly, I mean, Ben Carson, I thought, didn't have a clue about the economy, foreign policy, his tax plan, or anything. Donald Trump didn't have much more of a clue. But overall, the other thing that struck me overall was what old ideas these guys are preaching. I mean, going back in time to kill baby Hitler, I thought we were going back in time for this debate last night because we heard the same stuff. This was a debate that Ronald Reagan could have had. I mean, they were talking about balanced budget amendment last night. They were talking about the flat tax, right? They're talking about abolishing the IRS. That's all Ronald Reagan. I mean, this is like back in the 80s, if not before then. I mean, they were talking about drilling for more oil. They were talking about privatizing Social Security. A new old idea is I think everybody on stage said last night they're going to repeal Obamacare.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they're not. They've tried. They've voted like 60 times by now in the House of Representatives. They're not going to repeal Obamacare. And then, this whole idea about the minimum wage, that if you raise the minimum wage, God forbid, for the poorest of our workers, well, then there are going to be millions of people out of work, right? That if you raise the minimum wage, there are more people out of work. That has been proven not true over and over and over and over again, as recently as under George W. Bush, when even President Bush said that's a bunch of baloney. And every one of those Republicans last night, there was not one Republican on stage who would agree to raising the minimum wage to $15. John Kasich, a little bit. They did in Ohio, but nobody would say $15. So it just, again, it was like a time warp. This is the year 2015, right? Don't you think by now they would come up with one new idea to present to the American people? Didn't hear it last night. 866-55-PRESS. Before we get there and play you some of the favorite sound bites of the night, say hello to our buddy Ike down in Charleston. What do you say, Ike?
Man.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, now that I've got the forks out of my eyes and after I had to go and buy a new TV because of all the brick throwing that went on, look, they're not giving us honest answers to these problems. I'll take an example. 13 of the states in this country that raised their minimum wage showed a 45% increase in employment. Okay, this trickle-down economics has been dead and gone a long time. It's just the Republicans refuse to let go of it. When it comes to income disparity, we all know that it's a 1% to the top 2% that we need to reform their tax code, along with the hedge fund managers and the loopholes for these corporations to quit hiding their money and doing what they're doing. Boeing got $100 and some billion, they got $1.4 billion last year in refunds, I believe it was, and paid no tax. They want to talk about pumping up the military and spending money, but they don't want to do what it takes to bring the money in to spend it in the first place, which causes deficit spending. And lastly, when it comes to immigration, look, I'm an immigrant. I'm from a family of immigrants myself. You can check the books at Ellis Island, okay? I don't have a problem with immigration, but what I do have a problem with is the idea that our country means nothing and our laws mean nothing. So the real solution to the problem is go after the illegal employers, do E-Verify, and you can stop this kind of nonsense from going on. The construction industry in particular needs to, they run it like it's a mafia business.
No, you're absolutely right on that. On the it's cracking down on the employers. Again, we got to hear a lot of talk about it, but it never happens. In fact, I don't think it happens under Republican or Democratic presidents. But the one thing was refreshing last night. There was at least, hey, Ike, always good to hear from you. Thanks for the call. But there were at least two who were willing to stand up and say, Donald Trump, you're full of gas. You're full of beans. You're not going to round up 11 million people and deport them all. You're going to have buses stop, and they're just going to go through the neighborhood, And then, John Kasich and George Bush, Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
Both said, come on, let's get realistic. Number one, this ain't going to work. From a practical point of view, you're never going to be able to do it. There are not enough buses, right? There are not enough Uber drivers. There are not enough planes or cars, whatever, to get all these people across the border in one fell swoop, number one. And number two, it's just not who we are. We don't bust up families in the middle of the night and ship them all out of the country. Good for John Kasich and good for Jeb Bush on that point as well. What do you say? 866-55-PRESS. Were there any big winners, any big losers? And, you have to wonder, what happened to Donald Trump and Ben Carson? Did they decide that we better not rock the boat? We better not say anything tonight because otherwise we may slip in the ratings. I don't think they did themselves any good. I think the two strongest ones were Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. And I hope I never see Carly Fiorina again in my entire life. 866-55-PRESS. We'll talk about it. Listen to some of the debate when we come back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 24 minutes after the hour. taking a look back at last night's debate and how they fared. I got to say, the one, everybody is saying that this was the best line of the night, okay? This is what gets me about Marco Rubio, right? He says stuff that sounds so good, but what does it really mean? Okay, here's Marco Rubio saying, no, we can't assume everybody has to go to college. We need emphasis on vocational education.
For the life of me, I don't know why we have stigmatized vocational education. Welders make more money than philosophers. We need more welders and less philosophers.
Stupid line.
Yeah.
Beyond stupid line.
Crowd goes crazy, right? Yeah. Okay, right. Now, first of all, vocational education is extremely important. It is, and we should be absolutely supporting it. President Obama talks about it all the time, by the way, the training that we need, and not everybody is destined or has to be on the track for a 4-year college or graduate school or whatever. Yeah, he's right about that point. And I'm glad welders make a lot of money. But you don't have to dump on philosophers. I mean, first of all, how many people are getting degrees in philosophy today? I don't think the philosophy schools are the ones that are overcrowded, right, on the campuses.
Yeah.
And number two, I'd have to say, kids today are still learning about and studying Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and Teilhard de Chardin, you name them, right? I don't know anybody who's studying a welder. Name one freaking welder today, right, who changed the whole way we think. Yeah, so, I mean, this put down, this anti-intellectualism is just phony on the part of them.
They love it, though.
Again.
Anti-intellectualism is is the perfect word for a lot of this stuff, right?
Yeah. Marco Rubio, I sum it up again. Young man with old ideas. It's like his brain, right, is like stuck in the 13th century. Let's go out to Cloverdale, California. How about it? Here's Mark. Hello, Mark. What do you say?
Hi, Bill. How you doing this morning? Happy Veterans Day. And I just got to say that the high point of the debate for me was when Donald Trump told Carly Fiorina, why don't you quit interrupting?
Yes. And, you know, the audience booed, but that's too bad because she was a shrew last night. I mean, she kept jumping in and saying nothing, by the way. Yeah, I thought she was just a royal pain in the ass. I agree with you, Mark. and only Trump could get away with it, right? Yeah. Hey, love Cloverdale, by the way. I haven't been there in a long time. I haven't heard about it for a long time. And I'm glad you said Happy Veterans Day, indeed. Steve is in Madison, Wisconsin. Steve.
Morning, Bill.
What do you think?
On raising the minimum wage, if you look at the topic right now, corporations are, with their low or no taxes, and they're paying minimum wage, are throwing more people on the food stamp and Medicaid rolls when they complain about there's too many, and to leave them for the support of the middle class with their 30-35% tax rate like mine is. And then if you raise the minimum wage, more of these people are going to have a chance to get off the rolls. It would benefit everyone. More money in their pockets, more money to spend.
Amen.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Now, amen, Steve, and salute to you and all of our good friends at 92.1 The Mike in Madison. Yeah, this idea that Donald Trump says, we'll still pay you the minimum wage. You just have to work harder. Then you'll make more money.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
Yes, I will shake hands. I will kiss babies. I will accept campaign contributions, even though I am not running for anything, let alone president of the United States. Hello, everybody. Great to see you. 33 minutes after the hour now. On a Wednesday, November 11, the morning after the 4th. Can you believe it? We've already suffered through 4 of these Republican debates. We got one more before the end of the year. Fasten your seatbelts. And the Democratic debate, of course, with Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton this Saturday from Las Vegas. Good to have you with us today. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can join the conversation anytime at 866-55-PRESS. And I know you're wondering why I look so good today, and there's a good reason. It's because of this scarf that I am wearing. Beautiful hand-woven scarf, one of a kind, woven by my friend, my wife, Carol Press.
A little Freudian there,
yeah. This is a rayon. I hope she wasn't watching. This is a rayon chenille. She does these in rayon chenille and in bamboo. They're beautiful. They make wonderful, wonderful gifts for yourself or for someone you love. And the way to do it, go to our website, BillPressShow.com. Click on the, don't take my word for it. Click in the upper right-hand corner. You can check out all the different designs and colors for this season, and you can even buy one online. And I encourage you to buy a lot of them and keep Carol happy. So there you go.
There you go.
This I love this blue.
That's a pretty blue.
Great blue. Those of you watching on Free Speech TV and those of you watching listening on the radio, just check out the website. It's interesting that last night a lot of people watching may have been big donors, big Republican donors or contributors watching to see, A, if the guy they're already supporting did well enough to maintain their support, let's say, or deserve their support. And some others who hadn't decided whom they're going to support yet might have been looking for the right horse to ride. Jonathan Swan's been covering particularly the money side of politics for The Hill, that great newspaper for which I write a column every Tuesday. And Jonathan joins us in studio this morning. Hey, Jonathan, good to see you.
Morning, Bill. How are you?
Welcome. Your first visit here in studio. Hope
it's actually my second,
been here
Bill.
before.
Sabrina, yeah. I'm sorry to break it to you. Yeah.
You came in when I wasn't here.
Yeah,
behind
I was
your
pretty.
back.
I was pretty good too.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. So, who do you think? Let's start with Jeb Bush, right? I know a lot of his donors are getting pretty nervous. Are they still as nervous after last night?
This is often actually a little bit misreported. There are sort of two tiers of Jeb Bush donors. So I speak to both, but the ones who are at the sort of $500,000, $1 million mark, guys who've written Jeb Bush $1 million checks to his super PAC, $500,000,
yeah,
they're just in.
Really?
These guys, when you write a check that large, you're just like, a lot of them are long-term friends of the family, and you know, it'll almost take him dropping out for them to leave him.
Yeah.
But you get below that, and there's a whole bunch of people who've written him maybe $20,000 checks, but they've got capacity to write far bigger checks to his super PAC. They're the ones who are getting really nervous. They're the ones who are looking at Rubio now and thinking, this guy is probably the bet. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And after last night, did that change their thinking, do you believe?
It's hard to know yet. The sample size I've got is so small. You know, you've got to actually sift through and talk to a lot of these people.
And you haven't had a chance to get them on the phone yet, right?
Yeah. Well,
but from what you saw, Jeb had a pretty good night last night. I thought the best. Everything is relative, right? And the bar is low. But I thought he had the best of the four debates so far.
Yeah. Look.
Do you agree?
I know. There's no question. He was, you know, a bit more forceful and spoke a lot more and talked, you know, tried to sort of make the compassionate conservative case, came out rebuking Trump on immigration as being unrealistic. But the problem with Jeb Bush at the moment, his campaign, is that normal voters aren't really getting excited. And you see that in his fundraising. It's really slowing down. And I don't think he did anything last night to excite the base in the way that Rubio, Cruz, a number of others did.
No, I would agree with that. He's not. His performance, it was solid, but not exciting, right? You know, where I think Rubio is, because he's young and he's forceful, and even if everything he says doesn't add up or make sense.
And look, this is
it looks and sounds good.
This is a pretty lousy data point, but after the debate, one of his team tweeted, you know, our website's very slow at the moment because everyone's crowding it for donations. I actually just went on and tested it, and I don't know if they've just got a really, you know, lousy website, but you couldn't really get onto it. It was really churning.
Oh, jeez.
And then I clicked on Jeb 2016 and it popped up. There was no problem.
Oh, really?
That's fine.
So, I mean, that's a really small data point. But it's true. I mean, these guys, you know, the reason they read out their website is because it works during these debates. People just pile on and they get these amazing, you know, $100,000 million hauls in the hours afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Bernie Sanders did.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. How about Ted Cruz? I mean, Rubio's definitely had a good night. I thought Ted Cruz did too.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I think what Cruz did very, very effectively is, without breaking Reagan's 11th commandment and attacking a fellow Republican, he drew very bright contrast between him and the pragmatists. So there was this really interesting exchange between Ted Cruz and John Kasich, where, I mean, it was about Wall Street, whether you'd bail out the banks. And John Kasich said, you can have your philosophy, you know, sort of thinking he was being the grown-up governor on the stage, and you're just this pretty-speaking Texan with philosophy, but I'll tell you how it's done. And Cruz got the better of him, because Cruz confronted him and said, well, what would you do? Would you bail out, you know, the Bank of America if it's going down? And Kasich made this very weird comment where he basically said, I'd figure out who are the hard-working people and who can afford to lose money. And the crowd just started booing.
Yeah.
So it was this sort of picking winners thing that just did not work. That was really interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought the other interesting exchange was Rand Paul taking on Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
Where Rubio was saying, I got this tax plan, but I also have this $1 trillion child income tax credit, and then I have this $1 trillion for the military. And Rand Paul, who showed, I thought, more fire than he's shown so far, got more speaking time and really more clearly than he's ever done defined who he is on stage last night. I'm not sure he won that debate, but he set Rubio back a little bit with that. Why? As he said, do we have that clip there, Jamie, about Rand Paul, about why is that a conservative idea if it's not too hard to find? But that was his point. I mean, here you are, you're throwing money around like a Democrat, right?
Yeah.
What? We got it? Here it is. Yeah.
I do want to rebuild the American
How's
military.
it conservative?
I know that Rand is a committed isolationist. I'm not. I believe the world is a stronger and a better place when the United States is the strongest military power in the world.
Marco, how is it conservative? How is it conservative to add a $1 trillion expenditure for the federal government that you're not paying for?
Yeah, good question.
There's a lot of personal animosity underneath that too. I mean, those two just loathe each other.
Really?
Yeah, and their staffs loathe each other. It's just deep. It goes back to the Senate on the Foreign Relations Committee. They are just at war, and it's really a neat way to contrast the two wings of the Republican Party. Although last night, Rand Paul was a man without a team. Even Ted Cruz came in and said, we need to basically defend ourselves. I mean, who's the other isolationist on the stage?
No. He was all alone on that. But at least you knew who he was and what his message is.
Yeah.
What happened to Ben Carson?
Well, he just does what he does, right? He speaks softly. He doesn't say very much. I think he was had the least amount of time speaking, but he was apparently the most talked about on Twitter and Facebook.
But I sort of felt that we saw the real Ben Carson last night, which is somebody who doesn't have a clue,
right,
about economic theory, about military theory, about Syria. His answer on Syria, I thought, was embarrassing. He says, "Well, it's a pretty complex place." Yeah, no crap, right?
I mean, he's already made clear that he doesn't understand a budget. He's already made clear he doesn't understand the debt ceiling.
Or his own tax.
And how that works. He made clear he didn't understand his own tax plan in the last debate. Couldn't even explain it.
To be fair, he doesn't have a tax plan, so.
That's why
But he had floated this idea of one based on 10%, right? The tithing model from the Bible. And when he was questioned about it at the last debate, he goes, well, it would be closer to 15%, which still doesn't make any sense. So, what's the appeal of Ben Carson?
And Donald Trump phoned it in almost, right? I mean...
Well, yeah.
Even on the immigration, where she asked him basically said, give us your rapist speech again, right? And he didn't
How much raping are they doing exactly?
Right.
Yeah. And he didn't rise to the bait. I thought it was very subdued almost.
Well, the weirdest part was at one point Donald Trump emerged as the unifier. He sort of said, but let me just point out, everyone on this stage would be better than Hillary. I thought, that is not a very Trumpian thing to say.
No.
It's quite...
And also, let Jeb speak.
That was hilarious.
Yeah. And Jeb sort of sarcastically says, well, thank you, Donald, for letting me, talk at the debate.
Participate in the debate, yeah.
I don't know. So what do you think? Who had a good night? Who had a bad night? Did anybody kind of knock themselves out of contention last night? And... all right, admit it. Didn't we all miss Lindsey Graham? 866-55-PRESS, so toll-free number here with Jonathan Swan from The Hill.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 13 minutes before the top of the hour, I want to warn you, Jimmy Williams is coming in as a friend of Bill for the next hour. It's going to be wild. Oh, man, I'm telling you. He is going to just tear these people apart. You know that. He'll be here for the hour, and then we'll be joined by Betsy Woodruff from the Daily Beast. Right now in studio with us, Jonathan Swan, national political reporter for The Hill, taking a look at politics across the board and particularly at last night's debate. So, Jonathan, Hillary Clinton was on stage as much as anybody last night, right? I never heard Bernie mentioned at all.
Right. Well,
it was all everybody's attack on Hillary, right?
And it was also a way she was used as for the candidates that want to present themselves as, well, listen, you might not love me Republican base, but you know, gosh damn it, you know, when we get into a general election, I'll be the guy. And so Jeb Bush tries to elevate the discussion and say, well, you know, Hillary Clinton and her team are laughing in the office, and that was his way into the immigration debate. So, yeah, a few candidates tried that.
On the JV debate, at least we have to give some mention of it last night. That was there. Lindsey Graham was not there. He was missed. But of the four, Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum, Bobby Jindal, Chris Christie, Chris Christie was the only one that scored any points that I saw. I saw maybe 45 minutes of it.
He declared cyber war against China.
Yeah, I heard, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else
abolish
he said.
Not abolish the IRS.
He's going to fire a number of IRF.
IRF.
That got a lot of cheers. Look, Christie, I think, benefited, actually, from being demoted. I know that sounds weird,
really? Yeah.
but I really do think he's bombastic. He's a very talented politician, but on that big stage, he's got Donald Trump. He's got a lot of people who kind of play in his space, and I think being actually perversely being demoted and getting a bit more time, he just owned that stage.
Totally.
Big fish, small pond.
Completely.
Yeah.
Right.
But who knows?
So, you know, it could redound to his benefit in the sense that he could bounce back to the big stage and that he's the comeback kid, right? You know,
right.
That might give him a little boost in New Hampshire, wherever he needs it.
Because the demotion happened at a really strange time for Christie, because he was actually just starting to get some momentum.
Yeah, get some traction.
Yeah.
All right, so, of course, the debates are really all about the moderators and how the moderators do. How did Fox Business Channel do? How did the moderators do last night?
Well, they did exactly what they said they'd do, which is they were almost obsequious is too strong.
But almost.
I would say that they basically, they left it up to the candidates. They threw very, very soft pitches at them.
They let them talk as long as
they
wanted.
They let them talk as long as they want. There were it wasn't, the bells rung. It doesn't matter. They kept talking. They effectively allowed the candidates to deliver their stump speeches one after the other all night. Now, I actually think I don't know what you thought. I thought it actually strangely created a more interesting debate at times, not taken as a whole, but it did actually allow the candidates to they didn't have the media to beat up on, so they eventually actually started contrasting with each other and debating. But
there are two or three good exchanges that happened spontaneously.
Right.
We talked about the Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, the John Kasich, Donald Trump, and I forget who else.
There was another on
Cruz.
immigration.
Yeah, right. But at the same time, at some points, it got actually boring. When they were letting them drone on about their tax plans.
Bill Kristol from the Weekly Standard tweeted, "I sort of miss those CNBC guys."
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. That's a hell of a statement from someone like Bill Kristol.
I know. We need somebody who's going to insult the candidates, right? So that the candidates can insult the media. That we can get that.
But Maria got booed when she pointed out that Hillary Clinton had experience in one of her questions. I mean, that was so it was just these moderators were sort of very, very nervous to do anything that was perceived as hostile.
Yeah, and again, her question to Donald Trump was basically, "Will you please give your immigration speech again?" And to Marco Rubio was, "Will you please give your stump speech?" You know, I was surprised. I expected her to be the toughest of the moderators, and she wasn't at all. Okay, we'll be accused of being sexist if we don't talk about Carly Fiorina. Okay, I'll let you talk about her because I would really be accused of being sexist if I said about what I thought about her performance last night. I didn't think she had a great night. The audience loved her, though.
Carly Fiorina has this funny pattern of she performs very well in the debates. Her poll numbers spike, and then they start to flop. And the reason for that really is that she's actually not really running much of a campaign. Her super PAC is basically, this is the outsides group that you're not allowed to coordinate. They do this sort of game of smoke signals. So Carly's team will put out her schedule for the week. The super PAC will scurry to some hall in New Hampshire, put up all these posters, and then Carly just happens to turn up and does. So it's a very odd campaign, and that's really because there hasn't been grassroots or momentum. Last night, I think she did what she does, which is she's very polished, she's very articulate, she's got some strong canned lines, and the crowd sort of embraces it. But I don't feel like there was any particular moment for Carly last night.
Yeah, and she also says, like, I'm the only one up here who's got the experience leading innovative companies. Yeah, she led them into the ground, right?
She maybe shouldn't talk about that so much.
Not challenged at all, right? And, in fact, none of them were really challenged with anything they said.
There was an interesting moment when Donald Trump says, why is she interrupting all the time? And the whole crowd just starts booing.
I know.
So that was quite interesting. Yeah.
I know. That was the one time I just cheered Donald. Okay. Jonathan, great to have you in, particularly on a big day like today. Keep at it and come back and see us again.
Thanks for having me.
Jonathan Swan from The Hill, thehill.com, of course, and I'll come back and tell you President Obama, what's on his plate today. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay. Hour number 3 coming up, so get ready. Get ready to jump over to TawkrTV if you want to watch right now live at youtube.com/Tawkr, TAWKR-TV. Otherwise, on Free Speech TV, you wait around. You can catch us at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, and 2 Pacific. We'll continue to talk debate in the third hour. Jimmy Williams from Blue State Review will be here as Blue Nation Review will be here as a friend of Bill for the entire hour, and we'll be joined by Betsy Wheaton from the Daily Beast. Stick around. Hour number 3 coming up.
You through our streamlined process.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the next hour, Jimmy Williams, Blue Nation Review here as a friend of Bill with Betsy Woodruff from the Daily Beast joining us as well. President Obama not marking Veterans Day today. He is hosting a breakfast at the White House this morning for veterans and their families. The vice president will also be there, and then the president goes across the river to Arlington National Cemetery to lay a wreath. The vice president will go with him there too, at the Tomb of the Unknowns. It is a federal holiday, actually. Yeah. Therefore, we will have no briefing today at the White House, observing Veterans Day, as we do here too, and salute all the brave men and women who are wearing the uniform today, who have worn it to protect and serve us. Back
this is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together. And it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this. Because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Can you believe it? John Kasich got more time last night in the debate than Donald Trump. And by the way, he made better use of the time, too. He made a little bit of sense. Donald Trump made none. Hello, everybody. What do you say? Greetings. It is a Wednesday, November 11. Good to see you. And thanks for checking in here. Well, you know you want to talk about last night's debate. If you were foolish enough to stay up and watch the whole thing like we were. Why? Why? That's 4 of them, too, man. I haven't spent that much time listening or watching Republicans in my entire whole life. I'm not happy about it either. But and they didn't make any sense. We'll talk all about it, every aspect of it. So good to see you today. Thanks for joining us wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours, whether you're listening on the radio, God bless you. Or watching on Free Speech TV, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at PP Show. On Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow, and you'll have the rare opportunity to talk about the debate with Jimmy Williams, who is the head of Blue Nation Review. Executive editor is the official title. Hello, Jimmy. Good to see you.
Good morning, Bill. Happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day to you, too, sir. We have to remind ourselves of that. It's not the day after the debate. It's Veterans Day.
We forget about our veterans.
Yeah, we do.
The sad part.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Peter Ogburn, Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
We made it
here. You know
to the
these
final
guys,
hour.
Jimmy.
I know these yahoos over here. And they all thought that was a chocolate drink. It is not. They're actually people right here in Washington, D.C.
There they
yes,
go.
there they are.
Ray Rogers, there she is, ready for your calls. She's poised and ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS and Cyprian Boulding. Can't talk to him because he's on the job, keeping us looking good on Free Speech and on TawkrTV. Well, Ted Cruz last night, Jimmy, had his Rick Perry moment.
He did.
Yeah. All right. Rule number one for debates: don't say how many agencies you're going to eliminate unless you have them written down on your hand, right, or someplace, right, so you can remember. Poor Rick Perry, he was just going to do 3. He couldn't remember 3 of them.
Right.
Oops. Oops. Ted Cruz last night is going to eliminate 5. He could only remember 4.
5 major agencies that I would eliminate: the IRS, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Energy, the Department of Commerce, and HUD.
Well, look, they're Republicans. They double count.
Yeah, right.
We've seen their budgets, Bill, for decades.
Right. Yeah.
So it's...
I do wonder what the other one was.
To his credit, by the way, like, he didn't stall on it for long, and he just, bore right through it. And
I was waiting for the because all of us knew that. You already said commerce.
Oops.
That was a place where a moderator could have politely asked. No, you mentioned commerce twice. What's the 5th one?
Oh, that would have been a gotcha question.
Oh, I guess so.
They wouldn't dare ask that.
The sad thing is I didn't catch it until Twitter told me. The Twitters,
really?
The Twitters told me 16 seconds later.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, he means the Department of Education, of course. At least Rick Perry got that right.
Yeah, right.
I mean, when Rick Perry's smarter than you, you really should leave.
By the way, speaking of Ted Cruz, when you take a look at who spoke the most last night, Ted Cruz had more speaking time than anybody else on stage. He had 13 minutes, 35 seconds. Number 2 was John Kasich, 11 minutes, 51 seconds, followed by Donald Trump, 11:19, and Carly Fiorina with 11. At the bottom of the list, Ben Carson had the least, 9 minutes, 22 seconds. You know who's just above Carson?
Trump.
Poor Jeb Bush.
No, Jeb.
Jeb Bush.
Jebby, really?
9 minutes, 50 seconds. Rand Paul got more time to speak than Jeb Bush. Rand Paul had 10 minutes, 6 seconds.
Well, part of it is how aggressive they are, right? It's not the moderators are not necessarily giving out all the time. It's candidates for a large part who are taking the time, seizing the time.
It's a debate. So if you're not going to participate, don't show up for the debate, not to rhyme on a Wednesday morning. But I'm just saying, look, Jeb Bush last night was polling on the Drudge Report at 1% all night long. 1%. Perhaps not his home team crowd, but I'm just saying.
You got to win that crowd.
I mean, his mother was right. There's enough Bushes that have run for the White House. Yes.
A quick little commercial here, which we got to mention. Some of you are, we know, asking why I'm looking so good this morning, why I'm looking so sharp this morning. It's because I am wearing this beautiful scarf. It is one of Carol Press's products, lines and designs for this season.
Yes, it
is. What do you
think,
Jimmy?
I think it's fantastic. She has a show.
She has a show coming up this weekend, and we have a show every day. You can go on our website and look at all the different designs and colors for this season at BillPressShow.com. Upper right-hand corner says Carol Press Scarves. You can buy the scarves there. Again, check out all the different designs.
Jimmy, you were wondering who the...
I will be here this weekend. I'm actually going to be in town. I'm coming by. I got the invitation from Carol.
All right.
Not from you, from Carol.
Well,
Thank you. It is her business.
It's nice to know which one of the press household is the talented one, too.
Well, not only listen, we know who runs that house. Yes, that's exactly right.
No, I'm just looking at you. I'm just looking at.
Well, I need this one, right? Can I put this one on for the show?
I think
that's sort of Citadel blue, which I'm wearing.
There you go. Yeah, it matches your Citadel Bulldog shirt there.
Of course, I'm going to screw up my IFP, but that's a
you'll be all right.
It'll work.
I'm going to do it like the last king of Scotland. There you go. How's that? Could I look gayer right now? Actually, I could, but I'm not going to, because apparently your readers get pissed when I say that I'm gay. Screw them. That's the way I think, yeah.
In case you didn't notice, Jimmy Williams is with us.
There he is.
That's right.
There he is.
We'll be back, talk more about the debate, but first.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Speaking of gay people, President Barack Obama
so gay
posed on the cover of Out magazine. He is the first sitting president to do so. Out magazine, a magazine aimed at the gay readers, gay lifestyle, and they named Barack Obama Ally of the Year.
Told you he was gay.
Yeah, I knew he was gay.
You know he's black?
What?
Black and gay. That's no way to go through life, son.
They say that Barack Obama has done more to advance the cause of the LGBT community than anybody else, and he was named officially their Ally of the Year. So he actually sat down and posed for the photo that's going to be on the cover of the magazine, Out magazine.
Seriously, you have to say he is the most gay-friendly president we've ever had.
Yes, but what upsets me is when people say he's the first gay president. Like people say Bill Clinton was the first black president.
Yeah. Right.
I'm sorry, Barack Obama was the first black president. When you actually find someone that runs for office who's openly gay, okay, fine, let him be bisexual.
Right.
Then that's okay. Yeah. Then you have a gay president. Until that time, they just want to be gay. Right? I mean, that's just... But I'm honored. We are honored because he has done more.
And he has done a lot. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, more than anybody else.
Yes.
Last week I told you the story of Daniel Fleetwood. He is the man who's terminally ill. He wanted to see the Star Wars movie. Star Wars movie doesn't come out until the middle of December, and there's been a whole online campaign to get him a copy of the Star Wars movie. Last week we found out that he did see it. J.J. Abrams sent him an unfinished copy of the movie, so he was able to watch it. And 4 days later, he passed away.
No.
He did pass away.
Really?
It's a sad story, but the happy ending there is...
I'm so glad that they were that's like the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
They got him the movie.
Yeah.
Actors from the movie, everybody was saying, let him see the movie. So they got him the movie, he got to see it, he got his dying wish, and then he passed away. So farewell to Daniel Fleetwood. It's an inspiring story there. And how about this? We go to Boston, Massachusetts, where a man worked in a barber shop, Bill. He'd been cutting hair there for quite some time, actually. Didn't have a whole lot of complaints. And then his boss found out that he is legally blind. The man's name is Joel Nixon. He worked there for a year at Tony's Barbershop in Boston, Massachusetts. And he has retinitis pigmentosa, which affects peripheral vision. And that means that he is legally blind. He says he can see well enough to cut hair, but legally he is blind. So he was fired, but yesterday it was found Massachusetts said that the barber owed him $100,000 for illegally firing him. You could not fire him just because he's a blind barber.
So your peripheral vision is when you look from side to side.
Yes.
So as long as the head is straight in front of you, you can cut it.
Well, he made the argument that nobody had any complaints.
Right.
He didn't have any problem. Like when you're looking down on someone's head, right, to cut their hair, right? He didn't have any problem seeing what was going on there. But the barber found out after the guy worked there for a year that he was legally blind.
I just hope he didn't drive to work every day.
That's what you're worried about.
Those Boston drivers are crazy.
But he's got $100,000 more in his pocket now.
You can cut hair by Braille.
Sure. I mean, I'm bald. You can cut my hair. Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Don't touch my beard.
By the way, can I mention a quick thing about Boston, which I learned yesterday?
Go ahead,
I had lunch with Terry O'Sullivan, the president of the Laborers Union. Great guy. I love Terry.
Shout out to Boston.
We were talking about labor union members. I don't know how we got onto it, who actually run for office. And the mayor of Boston, Marty Walsh, is a member of the Laborers Union.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Marty.
He came out of the... Marty.
I did not know that.
He came out of the Laborers. Isn't that,
no wonder we
isn't that great?
Yeah, good for Marty.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, he's the real deal.
Yeah, Marty. He is.
Indeed.
Good for him.
So, overall, did they do it... when you start a debate and ask all 8 people on stage in the big debate, right, the minimum wage, $15 an hour, there was not one person on that stage who would stand up and say, yeah, damn right, the people they deserve at least not to live in poverty.
Yeah, in fact, Trump
me.
said something. I mean, it went bonkers on Twitter. Trump said something along the lines of
"Work harder."
Work harder. Yeah, and I thought, okay, so basically, Trump. I mean, it's the first question, right? And Trump said, "No, I'm not for raising the minimum wage." So, okay, now Kasich hedged a little teeny bit on this.
They've raised it a little bit,
just a little teeny.
But
bit.
he wasn't for the 15.
That's
sure.
He's not for the $15. That's right. But look, I mean, if you can't, who earns the minimum wage? Well, that would be people who earn the minimum wage. It's called the minimum for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
What the question should have been: what are you doing about the maximum wage? That should have been the question. The real question, listen, I think the moderators did a decent job last night.
Yeah.
I know it's Fox News, but they at least controlled this debate insofar as much as they could. For the most part.
Yeah.
But the one question that they should have asked is this, and no one has asked this question, and I want someone to ask this question. Here's what we know. Corporate profits have never been higher in the history of the United States. The stock market in the last year has never been higher in the history of the United States. Yet, the middle class is shrinking. Incomes are shrinking, no one's moving up, and no one's getting those dollars. How would you, Donald Trump, how would you, Hillary Clinton, or anybody else fix that gap? That's the question to ask, because that is a fairness question.
It is. And by the way, I guess it was Gerard Baker, somebody got that question a little bit later where they said, you know, the gap between the CEO used to be 20 times. Now it's like 300 times.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it's how you phrase the question.
You know, another thing, it just drives me crazy. So I think it was, again, maybe Baker or somebody who pointed out that under Democratic presidents, they were doing over 100,000 jobs a month. Under Bill Clinton, under Barack Obama, average. And the last month was pretty good, but 271. And under George Bush, it was an average 13,000 new jobs a month. That's right. And Carly Fiorina denied it.
Basically. Well, yeah, she's a denier. She's a climate denier, a jobs denier, a reality denier. She's an all kinds of denier. She denies everything.
Denies she killed Hewlett Packard.
Killed Hewlett Packard. Denies she wiretapped her board, which she did. I mean, look, there's lots of things out there, and frankly, none of it makes sense. And so, but look, you're asking about facts. You're talking about factual things. Those will be damned in a Republican debate. I think the questions were fair. Were there any gotcha questions? No, not a single one. No one asked about Marco Rubio's finances. No one asked about Donald Trump's 4 corporate bankruptcies. And why no one asked Donald Trump why he's any different than Bernie Madoff, why he was able to take other people's money and lose it and still remain wealthy, because that's what Bernie Madoff did.
And even the question to Ben Carson about all the lies that he's told came as, are all these questions hurting your campaign? Not, are any of them true? Or how can you continue to lie about a scholarship to West Point?
Right. So here's how West Point works. West Point works insofar as it is paid for by the American taxpayer. The only people that West Point or any of the other service academies recruit are athletes. Now, if he had said he'd been recruited to play badminton or squash or tennis or football or basketball or croquet for the great school known as West Point, then I can understand him being recruited. But you don't get recruited to go to a service academy. The way it works is you ask your member of Congress or your senator to nominate you, and then either they do it or they don't. That's how it works. I don't know, but there should be a letter somewhere from Ben Carson or his parents to a member of Congress or a senator saying, I'd like to go to West Point. They don't just show up in schools. That's not how it works.
No. And there's not such a letter, And he said, well, I don't mind being vetted, but I hate people who lie. Well, it seems to me, if I told you that I was offered a full scholarship to Georgetown University and I was not, which I was not, if I told you I was, that's a lie.
Right.
And he's been telling a lie about West Point.
And also,
they let him get away with it again.
To get to the point of the role of the moderators, after he went through all that, he just says, look, everyone who knows me knows that I'm an honest man. And that's not an answer that you can use in a debate. That's a garbage answer.
Yeah. And then and what was the answer? Thank you, Dr. Carson.
Right. And then that's it.
Yeah.
Next.
Here we are.
Well, he attacked Hillary Clinton. his answer.
Of course.
Of course.
Yes, he quoted 10th
Accusing
grade
her
and then
of
attacked
lying
you. That's
about
exactly
the
right.
Benghazi
Yes, right.
Jimmy Williams here from Blue Nation Review. You look good in that scarf.
Of course I do.
Colors.
Carol Press made this scarf. Absolutely.
866-55-PRESS. Jump in if you can get a word in edgewise. We'll let you here on the Bill Press Show.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Help keep all the presidential candidates straight with your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 26 minutes after the hour. Betsy Woodruff from the Daily Beast will be here at the half hour, joining me and Jimmy Williams from Blue Nation Review, who is here with us. Hey, Jimmy, I know we'll talk more about last night's debate with Betsy. Let's leap ahead to Saturday a little bit. What do you expect from this second Democratic debate out in Las Vegas? We've now down to Bernie and Hillary and Martin O'Malley.
Yeah, I was in South Carolina in Rock Hill at Winthrop University for the MSNBC Democratic Forum, First in the South.
Yeah, right.
It was good. I honestly, when I walked into that, I thought the setup was going to be Rachel Maddow with the three of them at a table. Then I was told that it was going to be individually done.
They could not do them all
That's
at one
right.
time.
And I was like, wait a minute, I came down for this. Then I got into the auditorium, the Burns Auditorium, named after Jimmy Burns, and I sat there, and it worked. Now, Grant, I'm going to say this, and I'm an MSNBC loyalist, as you know. The questions, Rachel was tough, but she didn't go out of her way to screw these candidates, okay?
Yeah.
And that's to be expected. I got it, okay? Fine. So the same thing happens on the right side. But she asked them tough questions, and I think many of them were unanticipated. And I liked the format. I thought the format worked well. Fast forward to, so there was no way for an O'Malley or a Sanders to attack Clinton or for her to react or go on the attack. Fast forward to this Saturday to Vegas. That's going to be a brawl. When in Vegas, right? You know, you just go out, right?
Yeah.
We've seen the movies.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a pretty tough haul for all three of them. O'Malley needs to, figure out how he's going to be relevant. Sanders has got to be very careful, and Clinton has to also be careful. But I think it's going to be a good debate, and I hope they get asked great questions.
Yeah. And Bernie's got to get back in the game, I think.
He sure does.
The narrative now is that, she's really got it locked up. Whereas a month ago, they were saying Bernie's really on the rise, right?
Yeah.
So
You're right.
I'm
You're
looking
dead right.
forward to it.
Me too.
Jimmy Williams, Betsy Woodruff, coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow. CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here you go. At 33 minutes after the hour, it is the morning of, first of all, it is most importantly Veterans Day, and we don't want to forget that. And we salute all of our brave men and women wearing the uniform today, and those who have worn the uniform to protect us and keep us safe here in the great United States of America. Happy Veterans Day. It's also the morning after the big debate here with Jimmy Williams from Blue Nation Review, and we're joined now by Betsy Woodruff, political reporter for the Daily Beast. Hello, Betsy. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Jimmy, good to have you on board.
It is great to see both.
You notice we're all looking so good because we are all wearing, put it back on, Carol Press hand-woven scarves by my wife, Carol Press. You can, and we got different, so take your pick, right?
Made in America.
Made
on
a
Capitol
block
Hill.
from here.
That's
on
exactly
Capitol
right.
Hill.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So I've got a nice black and beige here, window pane, I think this is called. Jimmy's got a blue and...
Am I so blue today? Yes.
Blue and little...
Blue and green.
Blue and green there.
Blue
beautiful
Undersea
beautiful
color
colors.
I'm very much an
and Betsy,
aquatic figure today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Betsy with a beautiful red and black, and there are lots of other patterns and colors to choose from. Go to our website, BillPressShow.com. In the upper right-hand corner, Carol Press scarves, and you can shop till you drop for yourself or somebody that you love. So, Betsy, the last time you were in, we had a good time, and then I pick up the paper the next day, or go online the next day, and here you are ambushing poor Lanny Davis on Amtrak with this big story about Lanny Davis on Amtrak.
You know, I would say Lanny Davis ambushed me. I just wanted to have a nice, calm, quiet morning train ride. And,
then you should not have sat alongside of Lanny Davis.
I know, it's a big mistake.
Rule number one of Amtrak.
Rule number one.
Don't sit next to Lanny Davis if you'd like to sleep. Right.
Exactly.
But he was talking freely to a couple of people on the train with some comments about Joe Biden and others that were certainly noteworthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Said that Bernie Sanders is nuts.
Yes.
Said that there is the perception that Biden is a buffoon, which doesn't strike me as a super controversial thing to say. Like, oh, wow, Biden, charged with buffoonery, dog bites man.
For Lanny
but
Davis,
for Lanny Davis, right, exactly. And especially on Amtrak. I mean, every 6 months, somebody who's a prominent, influential public figure gets on Amtrak, gets out their cell phone or talks to somebody and loudly says things that are baffling. And you would think people would realize, like, maybe if you're on the Acela between D.C. and New York, maybe there will be a reporter somewhere. I don't know, but...
One would think.
One
you
would
can
think.
bet on it. Same thing with the shuttle, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But look, if you really want to have these conversations, Amtrak, every train has a pissoir, a bathroom. You're welcome to go into that. I would not suggest you do a conference call or anything like that in the bathrooms on the Acela, or you can just shut up.
Yeah, right.
Not to be too find a point on
or
it.
you can do a young reporter a favor and say all sorts of fascinating characterizations of the vice president. You feel free to do that, guys.
The
I don't
sitting
wanna
vice
tell people not
president,
to
right,
do
by
this.
the way.
Exactly.
The sitting vice president.
Yes,
Yes,
indeed.
that's right.
All right, so we have been talking debate all morning, Betsy, but you joined us, so we haven't gotten your take yet. Who did themselves, anybody do themselves favors last night? Anybody kind of knock themselves out of contention?
I kind of don't think so. It seems my guess is that post-debate, things are kind of going to be the same as they were pre-debate. Like in the last one, Ted Cruz was sort of the breakout star, basically suggesting that all reporters everywhere are bad and untrustworthy. And we didn't really have a moment like that tonight. And one thing that struck me was that Rand Paul and Jeb Bush, I thought, had really similar performances in that the issues that they were most excited and articulate and, energized to talk about are issues that the Republican base hates them on. For Jeb, of course, it's the question of immigration. What do we do with undocumented immigrants here? For Rand Paul, it's military spending. I have a very low confidence level that any of the viewers of that debate were like, oh yeah, less military spending. Totally. That's what I want in a president. But that's where Rand is the most articulate, right? And most interesting to listen to. So, and same thing with Jeb. So, it's fun listening to them talk about those issues, but I don't think either of them are actually going to gain ground from that.
Jimmy, that's interesting because I thought both of them did have the best night of the 4 debates so far. Jeb was better, I think, than he was last night than he was in the other 3.
But still polling at 1% on drugs.
Exactly,
right.
exactly.
Right.
And so was Rand Paul. I mean, he got a lot of time, and you sort of finally learned kind of what Rand Paul is all about. But I think Betsy's right. The two of them scored on issues that are not necessarily great for them in the primary. Maybe they'll do better in the general on that.
Right.
But on immigration, most Republicans are not with Jeb.
I mean, the fact is, most Republican primary voters, consistently, the candidate who polls best on handling immigration is Donald Trump, and you're not going to have someone whose views are more diametrically opposed to Jeb Bush's than his. Like, if you like Donald Trump on immigration, sort of necessarily you hate Jeb Bush on immigration, and Republican primary voters really like what Trump has to say.
So, do you agree that basically how they're standing before and after the debate will be roughly the same? Not.
I think Jeb is having major problems getting any kind of traction. It's like someone covered his hands and his feet in oil, and he just can't get up the wall, despite the fact that the wall is only 3 inches tall. And I think that Rand Paul has a bigger problem, which is no one's paying attention to him. Rand Paul and Jeb Bush, I think you're exactly right. In a general election, would have had a far easier time debating those issues with Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Martin O'Malley, because we don't have a nominee on the left yet. And so, but I think what this does do is it does highlight that within the Republican Party there are major divides on these issues. On the issue of immigration, there are major divides on the issues of military spending, fiscal austerity, fiscal restraint, et cetera, whereas on the Democratic side, there's not a heck of a lot of divide between Martin O'Malley, Bernie Sanders, and Hillary Clinton on any of those issues. I mean, they are, maybe with some of the war stuff, but for the most part, they're all marching progressively forward. On the Republican side, though, there are John Kasich. It was the cheerleader on the side last night, trying to show people over and over again, "Hey, you're being crazy on this." I mean, and he was very forceful. For a Republican friend of mine who works in the House, direct messaged me and said, "Why does Kasich make sense?" I mean, have you ever met John Kasich? He's always made sense. I don't like half of his policies, but he makes sense. He's a commonsensical guy. The other stuff was crazy. Ben Carson was asleep. He was asleep. Now, he's a sleepy kind of guy.
He also blinks very slowly.
Yeah, when you blink slowly,
it's like he's carrying the weight of the world on his eyelids. Poor guy. He was totally drowsy. The fact that we don't know if he would go back in time and kill baby Hitler, as far as I'm concerned, this is a D- debate.
Well, that was the question that was missing last night. I thought that they would start with, and everybody raised their hand if they would be willing to kill baby Hitler. That would have been hysterical.
I mean, yesterday on Morning Joe, even Doris Kearns Goodwin said, "Kill baby Hitler." If Doris Kearns Goodwin says kill baby Hitler, for God's sakes, could someone kill baby Hitler?
I didn't know that.
Yes, Doris. Doris.
But back to Ben Carson, it was more than he was sleepy as he always is. I thought last night he showed an appalling lack of knowledge about anything. I mean, whether it was economic policy or his tax plan, which he couldn't explain, or on Syria, he was just lost. All I could say was, it's really kind of complex.
This is kind of par for the yeah, I know, good point. Insightful analysis. And that's kind of par for the course for Carson, too. Yeah. He's never even for a second suggested that he's a policy wonk, even on healthcare issues. James Downey at the Washington Post had a fantastic column just going through the fact that, over the weekend when there were a ton of stories about Carson's biography, column just going through the fact that the Beltway media has kind of zeroed in on these childhood events that are kind of hard to prove or disprove, when Carson has also said that half of Medicare and Medicaid spending is fraudulent, which is just totally divorced from reality. Obviously
that is a lie.
Right. That's just not true.
Right.
There's obviously some fraud in the way that these programs disperse funds. Fraud is bad. But to say 50%, that's like saying 50% of public school kids can't read.
Well, let's say Carly Fiorina last night said not one person has been helped by Obamacare. Oh, you may not like Obamacare, but
I was. And so Carly Fiorina, a cancer survivor. I'm a pre-cancer survivor because I was able to get coverage under Obamacare. Had I not, it would have turned into cancer. So, hey, Carly Fiorina, screw you. Obamacare saved my life.
But to say,
and that's a personal issue, okay? But guess what? It all is personal.
Yeah, but there are tens of millions of people I'd say
yes,
millions
there are.
of people like you. There are. To make a flat-out statement like that, right? It's just wrong, and then not be challenged.
Yeah, and to be sort of unequivocal about it, right? Obviously, there are debates that are about healthcare policy, access, affordability that are super important.
Yes,
but to talk in those kind of terms is just baffling.
Carson said something very interesting. He said that America was number one in economic power in the world because in the beginning of the country from 1789, blah blah blah. The reason America was the number one economic superpower in the world is because we had unpaid labor. We called that slavery, and for an African American to actually be divorced from the idea that a majority of the workforce in America for the first 150 years of this country was unpaid. Yes, it's very easy to turn a profit when you don't have to pay people. I mean, how about a divorce from reality?
Wow.
Did he actually think that was a sane thing to say?
Good for you. I missed that last night. Well,
I'm from the South.
Statement.
I'm a little bit prone to the whole slavery. I mean, I'm a little bit sensitive to it. Yes.
All right, but let's all agree he's right about the pyramids.
I love pyramid news cycles. That's all I want.
More pyramids. Joseph built those things.
He did.
I just love that political reporters are now having to put Egyptologists in their contact list. I think that's amazing.
All they have to do is go and watch Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. That's all they have to do. The whole thing's in there.
Or they just need a little story on exegesis and get the book of Genesis, and
then there's that.
There it is. Biblical scholars
Exodus.
and Egyptologists, right? Betsy Woodruff and Jimmy Williams, neither a biblical scholar nor an Egyptologist, but politics, we got it down. So do you. 866-55-PRESS is the number. We'll be right back.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 12 minutes before the top of the hour here in studio, post-debate morning with Betsy Woodruff from Daily Beast and Jimmy Williams from Blue Nation Review. And we've been talking about the grown-up debate. I think we have to at least spend a little time on the kiddie debate. And the one we have not played, a clip all morning from poor Rick Santorum, who had his one moment. The question was asked, who do you admire? Who do you admire among the Democrats? Rick Santorum, he almost sounds like Howard Dean here. He gets excited.
You know who I respect in the Democratic Party? You know why I respect them? Because they fight. Fight! Because they're not willing to back down, and they're willing to stand up and fight and win. And so I respect them because they are willing to take it to us.
Poor Santorum.
Seriously. I feel like there are also probably a lot of Democratic primary voters who would like to hear more about these Democrats who are so dogged on some of these issues.
But on that stage last night, there was only one player, right? It was Chris Christie.
Well, yes.
I mean, compared to Bobby Jindal, Mike Huckabee, and Rick Santorum.
Yeah, this isn't even JV. This is the sixth grade. And it's sad. It's sad for them, not for me. I think it's perfectly fabulous that they have flamed out when half these people were sitting senators, governors, blah 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 blah. But look, if the goal is to be relevant, all failed. All of them failed. I do think Chris Christie got a bit of a raw deal when it came to Fox News, when it came to those polls. They waited. They didn't use one of the polls that would have had him on the main stage, frankly.
Yeah.
And so
he was just starting, Betsy, wasn't he? Just starting to show a little movement.
He was.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Sort of kind of getting legs in a tiny way. But at the same time, I'm so glad there were only 8 people on the main debate. It just made it so much better. People can actually talk in complete sentences. Candidates don't disappear for half an hour at a time.
Although Jeb Bush did disappear for half an hour at one time. Yes, he did. So yes. And Ben Carson stayed disappeared. Yes.
Donald Trump did it at times, right?
Sure. Yeah. Listen, does he need to say anything? Did Donald Trump say anything last night? Raise your hand. Did Donald Trump say anything last night that we haven't heard Donald Trump say before? The answer is no.
I mean, he said China's involved in TPP. That was interesting.
He did say that, but I don't believe that. But then I could be wrong. You never know. Maybe look. I mean, he does it. It's the same thing. I'll build a wall. Mexico will pay for it. We'll be great again. It'll be a fabulous door. Okay, great. I mean, what is he? An interior designer? What? I don't understand what that is. But he's Donald Trump, and I still to this day think he will flame out. I don't think that. I was in South Carolina this past weekend. There are a lot of Trump supporters in South Carolina. Trump is fading in South Carolina, and I can tell you why, because they don't think he can beat Hillary Clinton.
I mean, there's no poll that indicates he can.
Right.
There's, I think, a Quinnipiac poll that came out a week or two ago showed Carson beating Hillary in general. All this stuff is way far out, obviously.
Right.
Isn't worth, take it as far as you can throw it. But that said, even right now, these numbers, when we're sort of at peak Trump, don't show him competitive in a general.
All right. This may be unfair, but if you had to say, given the field today, right, which of those 8 people on stage do you think will be the Republican nominee? You go first, and then Jimmy. There's no right or wrong here. It's just a wild ass guess.
It's not like we'll actually know the answer to this question.
No.
I kind of lean towards Cruz a little bit. I think things are going to get extremely ugly for Rubio once the establishment coalesces behind him. I think the immigration problem is going to be, or the problem of his disconnect from the Republican base on immigration is going to get bigger and bigger. And I think Cruz is going to find himself as someone who perhaps big money donors find palatable and acceptable, but the conservative base also sees as a champion. So I think he's in a good spot.
I used to think it was going to be Rubio, but I have to agree with Betsy. I think Cruz.
Really?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because he has virtually no flip-flop hypocrisy baggage. There's none. The immigration is the number one thing driving the Republican electorate at this point in time. It was in the last election. It will be in this election. It will be in the next election because we've not addressed the issue. Therefore, Ted Cruz, whose last name is Cruz, is squarely on the right side of this issue for them. Marco Rubio has been on both sides of this issue and back and forth across that fence, by the way, and no one knows where he really stands.
And I think Cruz actually tacked right on immigration a tiny bit last night, too, because typically the way he talks about immigration is illegal immigration is bad, legal immigration is good. But last night, that little spiel he went off on about how if, there were journalists crossing the border and journalist jobs were getting taken, people would feel differently about it. The basic premise there is that population growth and the expansion of the labor market hurts American workers, and that we need some sort of protectionist policies to keep these workers from having to compete with immigrants. And that particular argument is something that's actually kind of unusual to hear from Republican politicians.
Reach back to Barry Goldwater. They need to nominate the craziest of the craziest.
By the way, yes. I think that would be a Barry Goldwater moment if they nominate him.
Yeah.
You heard it here from Jimmy Williams and Betsy Woodruff. Ted Cruz, a Republican nominee. God save the Republic. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Bill.
We'll be right back with a quick parting shot.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, what do you say? Good morning. Great to see you this morning. This is the Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., bringing you up to date on all the news of the day, whether it's happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. Events in the nation's capital. Hi, everybody. It's Bill Press. This year marks the 10th anniversary of doing the Bill Press Show, every day covering the news of the day with the nation's top newsmakers, either on the line or in our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Not only that, I go to the White House briefings every day to get answers to the top questions of the day. Bottom line, if it's happening in Washington, D.C., either at the White House or the Capitol, we are all over it. Every day, we welcome to our studio political leaders and reporters and labor leaders and newsmakers to help us understand the issues of the day. We started out as a radio show only, but over the years, we have branched out to all forms of the new media. So today, We're not just a radio show. We are podcasting, streaming audio, streaming video, and we are simulcast live on Free Speech TV nationwide. Reaching out to 40 million households on Free Speech TV, in addition to hundreds of thousands on local radio stations and online.
AFGE is so proud to be associated with this show and looks forward to being working with Bill and this show for a long time.
Bill Press is the right man at the right time with the right message.
And thanks to the Bill Press Show, we get our message out to thousands and thousands of people every day. Thank you, Bill Press.
The Teamsters are a proud partner with Bill Press on his show, telling the truth about what's going on with working families. Tune in.
Yes, it's been a fun and exciting 10 years so far for the Bill Press Show. We're looking forward to many more with all of you, broadcasting live every morning from the nation's capital.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show. The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, you know, we laughed a lot about Jeb Bush saying he could travel back in time and kill baby Hitler, but after watching last night's debate, I realized it's not so funny after all, because Republicans are always traveling back in time. Just look at that debate last night. What did you hear about? Candidates talking about eliminating the IRS. I mean, that's as old as Ronald Reagan. Or how about these oldies and not goodies? They're going to privatize Social Security. They're going to cut spending. They're going to drill for more oil. They're going to replace the income tax with a flat tax. The same dumb old ideas we've been hearing for the last 50 years. And, of course, updating now, they're going to repeal Obamacare, and they say they won't raise the minimum wage. People just have to work harder. I mean, come on. This is 2015. Don't you think by now they could come up with one new idea? We didn't hear one last night. All right, folks, that's my parting shot for today. Happy Veterans Day again. Have a great one. Come back and see us again tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.